opportunity to speak. The normal process on any agenda item is for the chair to read the item from the agenda. The board is given an opportunity to comment on the issue and or place a motion on the floor. An opportunity for discussion may be presented, at which time the public may participate. Then a roll call vote will follow. Our attendance today, roll call please.
Kyle.
Here.
Slosik.
Here.
Hibbs. Here.
Could you all please stand for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a motion to approve today's agenda.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to this agenda.
I'll second that.
There's a motion second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Kyle.
Yes.
Slosik.
Yes.
Hibbs. Yes.
To the consent agenda, approve regular session minutes from April 26, 2023. Approve claims as audited. Authorize the auditor reporter to issue payment the same, listing of claims paid at this meeting. All claims paid in the current month will be published as part of the first meeting of the following month. File manure management plans, Corey Eldridge, ID 65974, 2741 Brown Avenue, State Center with changes. Providence 36, ID 68849 at 29575 335th Street, New Providence with changes. Camco 42 LLC 58267 at 3079 310th Street, Gilman with changes. 5D, personal changes, approved new hire, treasurer's office, universe clerk, Amber Maxfield, permanent full-time, 40 hours per week at $17.56 per hour. Start date on or after May 16th, 2023. Approved new hire, attorney's office, assistant county attorney, Autumn County, permanent full-time, 40 hours per week, $70,000 annual salary. Start date on or after May 15th, 2023. And that is the end of the consent agenda. A motion to approve.
I'll make the motion. We approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Kyle.
Yes.
Slosik.
Yes.
Hibbs. Yes.
All right, number 6, review the Animal Rescue League contract, discussion, possible action. I believe we have Rachel Buchanan here today. Here to present some numbers that what the Animal Rescue League is doing here in Marshall County, and kind of review what we have here in our contract. And I know the sheriff's office may have some comments as well. Yes, and you know, Williams over there might be helpful for you to solve this again. And it keeps you on.
Guys, a copy of the contract. I wasn't sure if there was some numbers that I told you. Thank you. All right, so the current contract that we have with the county was last signed in 2009. So I feel like there is quite a bit of updating that needs done. So I have, and I provided you guys with some numbers that I pulled from my reports from the last 12 years. So my database management system only goes back to 2011. So I have included the language of the contract states that we have to take in any stray animal that is brought in by a resident of Marshall County. So that first column here is the number of stray animals that we have had brought into us for the last 12 years. The next column labeled stray RTO is return to owner. So that is the amount of stray animals that were reclaimed by their owners. The next column seized is what we classify any animal that was brought to us by law enforcement or that we were dispatched to pick up. And so that number is significantly smaller. And then the column next to that seized RTO is any seized animal that came to us that was returned to their owner. And so underneath that little grid there is what it costs us to hold those animals. Now the contract does state that we have to hold them for no less than 7 days, which is slightly different than the city contract. City contract states 3 days for cats, 7 days for dogs. So our daily cost of care is approximately $15 a day. That covers staff wages, that covers utilities, that covers food, that sort of thing. So approximately $15 a day. And so what I did was I took our stray and seize number from each year, subtracted the number of return to owner animals, because in order to claim your pet, you do have to reimburse the ARL any fees incurred by those animals. So I did subtract those numbers. And so I took those numbers and multiplied out by that 7-day stray hold. And that is an approximate cost, not an exact cost, but an approximate cost just to house those animals for that length of stray hold. Now that is a minimum cost. That third page I provided also details and breaks down the cost of vaccinations that we have to do that are regulated by both city, county, and state regulations. And then after that stray hold, once we make that animal available for adoption, the costs that are incurred past that in order to make the animal available for adoption. So additional vaccinations, testing, microchipping, spaying, surgeries. So as you can see on that second sheet, the amount of money that we have been getting from the county has not been sufficient in being able to cover our costs. And that was my main concern with the contract. I did actually sit down and meet with Sheriff Phillips on Monday and discuss some things that he wanted potentially to be changed in terms of wording and the amount or kind of services that we offer at the county. And we had a really, really good discussion about several things. So there were a couple of things that he wanted changed as well.
Do you have any questions from us?
Sure.
First one is, what's the difference between our contract? What's in the city's contract, you guys?
The city's contract is a lot more specific in terms of what we can charge owners in terms of reclaim fees, after hours services. There's no after hours services specified in the county contract. They are specified in the city contract. Trying to think what else is in there. One thing that I had noted in the county contract is that it does not specify domesticated animals where the city contract does. And my concern with that being, I would like that word added into the contract because of the feral cat population in the country. The ASPCA defines feral cats as a wild animal. They are not safe to house indoors, and they're not safe for staff to handle. So I would like that added so that we don't, we haven't been accepting feral cats. We usually refer them to a TNR program or another resource, but I would like that added for simplicity's sake.
What is TNR?
Trap, neuter, release. So we do have a local program that will assist residents of Marshalltown, and they do work outside of Marshalltown a little bit. Will help trap specifically feral cats or community cats, get them fixed, and then release them back to the property. It's a preventative measure to help control the population.
Outside of what you do in the contract with the county and for the city's contract, what other parts of under your umbrella animal rescue league do you guys do?
We also do all of the rabies holds and quarantines for the city of the county. So that is, the numbers for those are also included in there. I did not include that in the calculation of the cost, because again, that's something that the owner has to reimburse us for.
What other revenue streams do you guys have?
Okay. So we are contracted with the city, we're contracted with you guys, and then everything else is purely fundraising and grant money. We are, outside of those contracts, we are a 501c3.
Have you had a chance to take a look at what other counties' contract look like?
Yes. I have contacts with the city of Ames, Boone, Story County, Carroll, Mason City, and Fort Dodge. And I regularly meet and speak with those directors as well. Now Ames and Story County are municipal shelters, so theirs are a little bit difference in terms of the money that they're supplied from the city. Boone is probably the most comparable program to us in terms of population and services offered, but they also are licensed to do wildlife while we are not. So their contracts are much more specific and in detail because of that.
How much does this city is in their contract with you?
80 grand. With a, I believe, 3% increase every year.
Isn't that automatic? How long was the term of that contract?
5 years.
Do any other cities in the county contracts with you? Like State Center or Liberty?
Yes, again, they were all signed in 2009. And most of those contracts specify only certain people are allowed from the city, only certain people from the city are allowed to bring me animals, but I don't think that any of those people are even in office anymore.
Can you explain so just for the 2022, the strays, so 97 stray animals were brought in or picked up
Brought in from residents.
from residents?
Yes.
And those are residents outside of incorporated areas?
The contract does not specify that. This is a resident of Marshall County.
Then does that include Marshalltown then?
These numbers do not include Marshalltown. In my database management system, I can specify from what jurisdiction the animal comes from. So if it came from within city limits, it's specified as a Marshalltown animal. Anything outside of the city is specified as county.
Even if it's in another municipality like State Center?
We played catch up here just a few weeks ago on billing.
Yes.
Is that, how did something like that happen? Is that different?
There has been a lot of turnover in management and direction out of the ARL, and the lack of management, there was some oversight in getting you guys billed. Yeah, once I realized my mistake, I rectified it as quickly as possible.
Do you know what the number of strays were brought in from the city of Marshalltown?
Off the top of my head, no. I know that overall, my intake last year was just over 1,200 animals. So that includes strays and owner surrenders and that sort of thing. So, but I don't know the breakdown off the top of my head.
I'd just be curious to see what that ratio is compared to when you get the cost for the boarding,
Sure.
you know, in comparison to what the city's contract is, to see if we're comparable, if we're close, if we're way off. And I think that would be helpful for us in a guide of what adjustments we need to do.
Sure.
I do know that there's a couple things in the contract that I just saw off the top of my head that I thought could be changed is the requirement of having a board of supervisors member be that kind of ability in contacts. When we have deputies that are the ones on site,
Right.
to then have us get contacted in there. I think that's something that could be stripped. I do think that when there is the number 5, the reimbursement for 50 cents per mile, I think we should probably change that just with the IRS mileage rate is.
Federal mileage.
And then, and maybe change that minimum. I mean, I was just initially thinking bump it to 25, but that's negotiable. I just thought that seemed like an archaically low amount and then that's not tied to the federal rate. Didn't seem to make sense. So, I mean, those were the initial things. And as for that, I know that 7250 hasn't been changed since 2009, correct? That could be low, but I just hadn't had a chance to, these numbers are helpful, but I would like to see those comparisons with the city.
Yeah, and I just recently renegotiated the city contract as well last summer. And the way we broke it down was the city pays for any expenses incurred while the animal is in stray hold. So boarding for the stray holds, and vaccinations that are required.
With the city contract though, do you guys provide services for the at-large citations?
We have to call that in.
You don't have any paperwork with associated with that at all? That changed in the last contract? Do you require, so right now, if I get called about a dog at large, I'm required to contact a board supervisor member for that authorization to pick that up. If I'm Joe Citizen and I come across a dog on the side of the road, is that same notification to the board? Is the board approval required for me to bring that into you and have it billed to the county?
If a member of the public finds an animal, they are referred to law enforcement.
So
if it's,
so the 97 animals are brought in.
so if they are not able to bring the animal to us, then yes, they're referred to law enforcement. Otherwise, they are able to bring them to us themselves if they're capable. That's what that number is. The 97.
So if Joe Citizen brings the animal to you,
Yes.
does that require board supervisor approval to accept it?
Yep.
So it's only for law enforcement to bring it to you.
Mhm.
And that's to bring it to you or have you call out?
That's to not to have it brought to us by law enforcement, but to have us dispatched to the scene.
Just for those that don't have paper, can you give those numbers of law enforcement driven?
Yeah.
For the last 3 years?
Yeah, absolutely. They're pretty low, to be honest. In 2022, there were 14 seized animals from the county. 2021, there were 7. 2020, there was only 1. 2019, there were 16 seized animals. In 18, there were 22. In 17, there were 15 animals. 2016 brought in 28 seized animals. 2015 brought 21. 2014, there were 13 seized animals. 2013, there were 22. 2012, there were 20 animals. And 2011, there were 20.
So those numbers are purely any of them the sheriff's office
Mhm.
either brought to you or called you out to, either one of those two options, or would that be
That's
just
correct.
call outs?
Nope, that includes both agencies.
Drop offs or call outs.
Yes.
But that doesn't differentiate if we're called to Melbourne, for example, who has their own contract. Is that included in those numbers as well?
The numbers are not differentiated between the municipalities. That's just Marshall
So
County.
that's basically everything outside of Marshall State limits. So just to give some clarification to the board on these numbers, I did run, after talking with the sheriff, did run our reports checks the last 3 years. Search my calls for service. So to drill us down a little farther into actual more specifics, I think, in Marshall County. So we provide contract law enforcement for 10 communities: Albion, Clemens, Ferguson, Gilman, Haverhill, Laurel, Lipscomb, Melbourne, Rose, St. Anthony. Basically every city in the county except for Marshalltown State Center. So if you drill down those numbers of pickups or drop-offs to just unincorporated rural areas, that number 14 in 2022 is actually 3 pickups or drop-offs from unincorporated areas. 2021, that's the 7 reported in 2021 is actually 2. Ironically, in 2020, the one she reported is actually 2 that were picked up or dropped off by our agency from rural unincorporated areas. We're not tracking, because if I get called to Melbourne for a dog barge, the city of Melbourne mayor or council has authorized that pickup, and that billing's all handled through Melbourne, correct?
I've never gotten any invoicing.
So if the city of, say, one of those 10 communities, if I get called to Albion, I know when I was city council in Albion, we had a contract with the ARL. If the city of Albion calls us up there for a dog and barge, the mayor authorizes us to either take that animal to the rescue league or to have you come pick it up. That billing is going, the billing from the ARL would go to the city of Albion, is that correct?
That's how it's supposed to work. I've never been contacted by any of the city officials.
I think the big thing, the big takeaway is, and maybe you weren't aware of this, that the unincorporated areas that the board of supervisors is actually responsible for, those numbers the last 3 years are 3, 2, 2. And of those 3, break it down a little bit differently too, as far as, because I want to give as much information as possible. In 2022, 2 of those animals were taken, and there was 3 dogs in 2022. 2 of those were taken to the rescue league by the deputies. 1 was picked up by the rescue league. 2021, there's 2 dogs in that calendar year. 1 was taken to the rescue league, and that was actually taken there. That was the call I was on, because when I called, they would not respond because that person at that time said there was no contract with the county, which I disagreed with that day. Anyway, for sake of time, we took it there. Second one in 2021 was actually picked up by the rescue league. 2020, there was 3 dogs in total, 2 different incidents. All 3 of those were taken there, and the one was actually taken there because there's nobody available to pick up. So this kind of gives some specifics on what we're dealing with out in the field. There's quite a variance in the numbers, but again, what we're talking about is a handful of incidents per year. But I think it's important for the board and everybody to understand, regardless of what happens in this contract, language to contact the board of supervisors by law enforcement to authorize this is silly when the public can take them there without any authorization whatsoever. It ends up on the county bill. And also understand it's probably a different county bill coming from possibly Melbourne State Center Roads, any other town that is actually responsible for that. That's being lumped in to one. These numbers.
Somebody out of county actually could do it if they gave a different address. I mean, if there's no authorization, you could just. I mean, I've heard people doing that, so.
Yeah, then there's no real way for us to prove.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you can't track it, but yeah.
Now, the notification for board approval is silly the way it's structured now, because I could essentially go home and take this uniform off, throw on jeans and sweatshirt, and dry that in aggressively. No, that's correct.
Agreed. Right.
But isn't it just the board of supervisors approval on if the ARL is coming out to pick up the animal?
Correct. We've been told we've had to get permission even for drop offs. We've never been able to drop off that authorization.
But that's not the case right now, right?
No, the sheriff's department, I've instructed my staff to tell them that in order for us to be dispatched, they have to contact you, but they are welcome to bring it to us.
And how long did that process start?
About a year ago. I've been there since December of 21.
Thanks for that. That's what the contract says. That's helpful. And then I think what kind of muddies the water a little bit is these other small incorporated towns, they have contracts, but it sounds like there are archaic contracts that aren't necessarily being followed. And it's not necessarily a major problem, but when something occurs, because we then do have the contracts for law enforcement, it just kind of blurs it. It has kind of a gray area of responsibility.
County gets to be a catch-all.
Yeah, and that's fine in small situations, but I think it's wise for us to, well, it was approaching me when we were going over home base Iowa. We have a mayor's meeting just going over home base Iowa, but I think this would be another item just to discuss with all the mayors of like, what are your contracts with ARL? Are we adequately serving it correctly? Are you doing your role? Are we doing our role? Is ARL doing their role? And I think that's a key thing so that we don't get into muddy waters for our sheriff's office when they're out in those small towns to help differentiate.
It seems to me like there might be a couple of pathways forward here. One is to, if the sheriff's department is going to take animals from incorporated areas of the county that our law enforcement contract reflect that and price accordingly to add that in. And then for other animals that are there from incorporated areas, that's a separate contract that you establish with those communities.
Correct. And then I might request a change in the language of the county contract
Right.
because it says except any stray animal
Right.
resident.
Oh,
of
I
Marshall County. Yeah, so
definitely agree.
that definitely creates a lot of gray area.
Well, there are obviously other things that
Yeah.
that we need to change and adjust. So that would
Absolutely.
be just one of the things I think we would address. Yeah.
Just to clarify, Sheila and Harold, currently we do our practice now, if it is an incorporated community, we do not take any animal that or have it picked up without authorization from the mayor or council members in those cities. So we will not ever take one there without that
Yeah.
agreement with that incorporated community.
But is that like just a package deal as part of the law
Yeah,
enforcement?
it's not been on contract. That municipality, whether it's Melbourne Road, whatever town it is, they're either responsible to pay that bill for the terms of their contract or on a, if it's out of contract, just whatever those fees are, it's not the county.
Yeah, but right now, are they paying the bill?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Are they being billed?
No, they're not.
I don't think we're in a position to make any decisions today.
No.
I'd like to have some conversation with the sheriff's department before I make any decision.
Did you have a proposal of what you'd like to see it change to, any of the dollar amounts?
Nothing formal.
Nothing formal.
I figured that there would not be a decision made today. I just wanted to present numbers and answer any questions. So.
Good.
One thing that I would just like to address, because it makes it a little bit difficult for dispatch, especially when obviously different municipalities, city of Marshall kind of have a lot more of a response. In the county, I don't have as much of a response. So in certain situations, if the animal is calm, if it's in pain, if it's in a neutral area, we don't have any indicators that we're at a bad location, no alerts, no nothing like that. Does law enforcement have to stay on scene? Because in the county, when I have limited resources, that can make it extremely difficult. If we're calling out ARL, if they're taking it to ARL, it's a moot point. But maybe something to consider for county side of things.
That's probably a conversation with the sheriff's department.
Yeah, there's a lot of other contingencies too that we currently do. Right now, there's a question of, we haven't in the past done after hours drop offs ourselves. Need some clarification on that too, that I think that might be where some of the confusion comes. I know that requires approval.
Yeah, because the after hour services are not specified in the county contract at all.
Right.
So, but I mean, so there's a lot of areas need clarified and direction. There's a lot of needs to be cleaned up in there as far as language to cover those what ifs, I guess.
Agreed.
Do you have a copy of the Boone County, their agreement with their rescue league or however that works?
I get it for you.
Awesome. If you could do that, and then as well as, can I get a copy of the cities? That'll help us put a framework together.
Yeah, absolutely. Mhm.
Any other questions, comments?
Well, my suggestion, I guess, would be is if we are coming up with our list of how do we meet the needs of the county, I assume you'll have some for yours. So
Yes.
it should probably be, I don't know if you're drafting it or if we're drafting it, but we should probably have what the expectations are for the animal rescue league as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And just to clarify too, obviously, you're kind of throwing the mix, like you mentioned before, you're playing cleanup from what's happened with,
Mhm.
we've dealt with this over the last 3-4 directors.
Exactly.
Everybody kind of has on doing things too. So Rachel is picking up a lot of pieces. But yeah, there's just been, there's been so many years where, there's definitely things that need to be improved upon for the cost. If you start figuring the cost per animal to Marshall County, of these three to the two per year, the cost per animal is astronomical. So as a taxpayer, that troubles me, I'm sure as well, get that down to it. To what we're actually spending on.
And it's not just necessarily about my goal with the ARL is to improve services to Marshall County and to the city because, like I mentioned before, it's just kind of been all over the place. And I took a large chunk of last year to work specifically with Marshalltown PD, and I have a great relationship with Chief Tupper. And I kind of laid the foundation for some really nice work with Sheriff Phillips on Monday. We met and talked for almost an hour and had excellent conversation. So yeah, my big thing is I would love to continue to provide these services. The big thing is I financially cannot sustain keeping these animals or taking in these animals at these rates with no financial compensation for it. So I understand that as a taxpayer, that it would be concerning that the county would be needing to spend more money on a contract for animal control, but that's kind of where I stand is I'd love to be able to continue providing these services, and even expand these services to serve the community as a whole, but I can't financially do it at this rate.
A suggestion might be maybe prioritizing layers of priorities to, these 2 or 3 animals a year that we're calling, the ones where we're actually on a scene. Those ought to be top level priority. That's a call. We've got, we've had one here this year where somebody's dogs were attacking somebody's dogs here at Lincoln Valley. Luckily, we were able to contact the owner and resolve that. But those situations, those are priority. Somebody bringing a stray in or bringing him in, I think it's in one anymore. Is down farther down the list as far as these are public safety as well. Come down, I think some that might be prioritized as far as if you're down to reality of limited resources, you have to prioritize what's at the top of that list.
Yeah, and that is something that we have also changed policy and procedure wise in terms of animals that are seized or come in as stray do get first priority in my kennel space. If I have an owner wanting to surrender an animal and I do not have the room, I have a wait list because I can't provide the amount of care. My capacity for care is limited within my building. So if I cannot provide that capacity for care, I will not overfill my capacity. So we have changed. We're not open admission, 100% open admission like we were. So we take in strays and seized animals as we're contracted to. And then if I have somebody that needs to surrender a dog, I will either provide them additional resources or put them on a wait list.
Well, just a point of mention, like Rachel said, she's been here for a year and a half. I've had more conversations with her and worked things out, even just with, communication through dispatch. Obviously, dispatch is all about communication. So prior to that, I hadn't heard from anyone from the ARL. So it's been a good working relationship. We're able to knock out a lot of those issues that we've had.
I would make a motion here to table this project. What should our time frame be? We get together with the sheriff's department in the next month.
Crazy. I think between the sheriff and I think our wants and needs list is pretty well established.
June 7th meeting is 2 meetings from now. That's shoot for that one. We'll have it tabled on the next meeting, but that seems like a pretty quick turnaround.
Are you comfortable with that time frame?
Do you want
Okay.
3 meetings? Need time to write.
That'd be 4 weeks.
All right. It's true.
If you have any questions along the way, contact me, one of us, contact you as well.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So do we need to set the motion to table?
I think we need a second.
Second.
Motion and a second to table this item. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Kyle,
Yes.
Fonseca,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Number 7, approve state of Iowa Alcohol Beverage Division license renewal, West Marshall Golf Course Association C0010945. Lincoln Valley Golf. Motion.
Chair, go ahead.
No, Steve, you go ahead.
I make a motion to approve the state of Iowa alcohol beverage division license renewal, West Marshall Golf Course Association. LC 0010945, DBA Lincoln Valley Golf, effective date beginning with 6/30/2023 to 6/29.
I'll second that.
A motion is second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Kyle,
Yes.
Lockett.
Yes.
Gibbs,
Yes.
Number 8, adopt resolution 2023-24. Approving appointment of Autumn Canning to the position of Assistant County Attorney in the Office of the County Attorney. We have a motion to bring us.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution 2023-00024 approving the appointment of Autumn Canning to the position of Assistant County Attorney. Assistant County Attorney, effective May 15th, 2023.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Jordan, have any discussion today?
Just that we're very excited to have Autumn come on board. She's been clerking with Judge Kester in Judicial District 2B. She's super smart, super skilled, and has experience already, and this is a big win and a big hit for her.
But let me ask you, this has no effect on Keo's position, does it?
No.
This is, and what is she officially? What is her official?
Keo,
Yes,
first assistant.
first assistant. Okay.
and all the attorneys in the
Are
office,
assistant.
assistant attorneys, and then Leo's first assistant.
I was just hoping we weren't removing Keo. So.
No. Okay.
Yeah. Morning, Keo.
Any other questions, discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Kyle,
Yes.
Lockett.
Yes.
Gibbs,
Yes.
Number 9, adopt resolution 2023-25, enacting stop approaches on 245th Street. Whereas Board of Supervisors empowered under authority sections 321.236 and 321.255 and 321.345 Code of Iowa designate any secondary road intersection under their jurisdiction as stop intersections, and to erect stop signs at one or more entrances to such intersection. So this is at westbound traffic on 245th at the intersection of Benford Avenue and 245th at the east corner, section 18, T83 North, R20 West, State Center Township.
Stop first or?
Harris said everything I was going to say.
I just read what was provided.
It's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's a T intersection approach just due to the volume of truck traffic. The very, provides.
Have you heard any negative feedback about?
None.
None.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2023-0025, enacting stop approaches on 245th Street.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Kyle,
Yes.
Lockett.
Yes.
Gibbs,
Yes.
Number 10, adopt resolution 2023-26, enacting stop approaches on Main Street Road. Same code section as the previous section. This is at east and westbound traffic on Main Street Road at the intersection of Zeller Avenue and Main Street Road at the northeast corner of section 35, T84 North, R17 West, Marion Township.
Okay, this is an intersection that's currently stopped northbound, southbound. And it's just you can see on the map that it's rock going to the east. This is the section that we are going to pave later this summer of Main Street. But as it sits right now, and even in the future, it's just that as you approach it, there's plenty of traffic from at least 3 of the directions that it justifies being an all-way stop. There has been quite a few accidents at this intersection, and I wouldn't even want to guess how many post calls, because the post calls don't get reported unless somebody calls me about a post call. But when you pull up to an intersection and it's rock to the right, paved to the left, your brain just thinks that rock road must stop, and it doesn't, And so even if we weren't in the process of making this a hard surface road to the east of this intersection, I would still be bringing this to an all-way stop just for purposes of safety. And I just thought it was better to get it in place before the paving happens. Paving is likely going to be July or August, so it's going to be later in the summer. We get this transition done, and I'm going to have this sign both sides of the road, stops and stop aheads as you come, approaching the intersection. Because when you're eastbound, you won't be able to see the stop signs. When you see the stop ahead signs, you won't be able to see the stop signs because you're pressing the vertical right there as you approach it. And we are also going to light the stop signs with red flashing on the east. We are not intending to do that on the westbound because as you approach them with the stop ahead signs, you can see the stop signs. So it's a lot more visible.
Leaving little strips on that, with them being their new stops. At least on the new paving.
I didn't have those on order, but it does make sense to do. Yes. So
But actually more so probably for eastbound, for the same reason you just mentioned.
yeah. And
It'd be easy on new construction, but retro also.
yeah, I think that definitely would make good sense to add rumble strips. The only people that won't like them are the people who live right there at the intersection.
And she brings for another day. Any other further discussion?
Well, I mean, and we can involve the board if you want to talk about the rumble strips for those approaches. They will be paved and got a company that I do pavement maintenance with. Denko Incorporated, they do install rumble strips, so they can, with it being an asphalt surface, they can come in and just grind it in. If you guys want, we can wait and see, or we can just go ahead and get those ordered and get them on there as quick as we can.
I mean, I think if you're in agreement, it makes sense to go ahead and do them now.
I think it would be a valuable addition. Thank you for the idea.
With that intersection being that way for so many years, there's been quite a learning curve of people getting used to that. Plus factor in the visibility issues.
Yeah,
This makes sense.
I will tell you, I've never been more concerned about putting a stop sign than this, as far as it being a switch over and a safety hazard in making this change, because it's right when the change happens, it's the most dangerous spot, when people are relying on that cross traffic to stop. And I'm gonna try to illuminate it every way I can. And if we want to wait and not put the signs up until I get the rumble strips in place, we can do it that way too. I can't guarantee when Denko is available to grind in rumble strips.
Is there any way we can work around the folks that live there along there? Rumble strips can be a little ways down the road from them.
No, we have to do it by traffic standards. It's just, for instance, you've been in the spot where you hit a rumble strip and maybe there isn't a second one. But what's going on here? Well, somebody complained and they wanted that one filled in. That actually happened in Jasper County, except it was a 3-strip thing and they asked to fill in the middle one. County went out and filled in 1 rumble strip. Not under my watch, but when that standard is there, you expect that, that next thing to be there, and then the sign approaches at the distance following, that. So it's a bad idea to go away from the standards if you're just asking to get sued.
Anything else? Thank you, Paul. I believe we do not have a motion here.
I would have one.
Thanks, Steve.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to adopt resolution 2023-0026 enacting stop approaches on Main Street Road.
Can I speak to this before you vote?
Oh, absolutely. Sure.
I'll second that.
Very familiar with this intersection. My brother lives there. I spend a lot of time there, cutting wood and so forth. And I don't have a problem with stop signs if they're obeyed.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that the stop signs are out there in my area You might as well take the wood and make firewood out of it and sell the signs to salvage, because they're not obeyed. This intersection, and there's another item involved in this, is this jake breaking. And I know Green Mountain's been trying to get this jake breaking thing and so forth. You are to live there. You are to live there, and now I find out you're gonna put rumble strips. That's gonna be horrible. The purpose is great, but my God, it's terrible over there, the noise. What do stop coming from the south, trucks. Then they have to, are you gonna put up a quiet zone because they have to accelerate to get up the incline and so forth? The ones coming from the west are jake braking so they can make the curve and so forth. Now they're gonna be jake braking even further back and harder for a stop sign. The purpose is good, but enforcement would be wonderful. I don't know how many times on Main Street Road and Wallace has got a stop sign, got your flashing lights, right on through, pay no attention. The other thing with signs, I have to cut the brush away from a sign on my road to see the narrow bridge sign this summer, because you could not see it. So if you're gonna have signs, let's maintain them, and let's take care of them, and let's get some enforcement out there. If anything, put a camera out there. You want to raise some revenue? Boy, you could raise some revenue out there at that corner, and probably at the corner of Wallace and Main Street Road. Because these signs are not being adhered to.
Would you mind sharing your name?
Harold Lanning, 1994 Vine Avenue.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Would the board like to direct me to wait on rumble strips?
This isn't actually talked about.
It is not. It is not.
I would like to. They can always be put in. Yeah. Always be put in. You know, a big truck, these are semis, straight trucks that are coming through. You don't feel rumble strips. Unless you've got one that's extremely aggressive.
Yeah, I think we need to put a stop sign in because nothing is enforceable if there isn't. That's.
I don't disagree with the concept.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, nobody pays any attention to them. Nobody, except me. And speed signs, let me give you this example. Over on Wallace, there by the Church of the Brethren, 45. One day last week, I'm driving 45. Passing me, go right up the hill. So what's the sign do? Don't do anything. Make something for the birds to sit on.
Dave Bean has shared the same thing with me. People don't stop at those stop signs. They're coming off of Grand, coming from Grand going north.
Thank you for that, Harold. I know the sheriff's office has taken note of this as well. Make sure that that's something we're keeping an eye on, and thanks for bringing that to us.
I mean, I've seen them come off the pavement and almost airborne when they, that little dip in the road. And I've heard this, whack. What the hell was that? Oh, that was a car flying.
Any further discussion? Motion and second, roll call vote, please.
Kyle,
Yes.
Swanton.
Yes.
Hibbs.
Yes.
Motion carries. On to number 11, Marshall County Employee Health Prescription Drug Benefit Plan and Marshall County Employee Dental Benefit Plan vision rates, discussion and action on setting the monthly rates for fiscal year 24. Health prescription drug benefit plan, single $836 $1.18. Employee plus one, $1,344.06. Family, $1,796.08. The dental plan, $41.06. Employee plus one, $82.12. Family, $93.64. And vision plan, $8.66. Employee plus one, $15.16. Family, $22.52.
So these are the total rates, so nobody have a heart attack. This is not your payroll deduction amount. So
This isn't monthly?
this is monthly, but it's not out of your check.
It's the
This is
total.
the total. So this is the employer and the employee share.
I was taking this and fighting it well. So. I was just trying to be funny, but I was.
Yeah. Well, I never know if you're funny.
Never
or-
do.
Not never.
Yes, yes, yes.
Most of the time. It does. It does. So, the last time this happened, I think a year ago, I got a text from somebody, you can afford that. So that's why I wanted to clarify that. The poor person that had a heart attack. So these are the total rates. After these are approved, they'll get a new, rates split between employee and employer, and that will get it out to, staff.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Marshall County Employee Health and Prescription Drug Benefit Plan and Marshall County Employee Dental Benefit Plan vision rates as presented for fiscal year 24.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion?
Is this any different than last year's numbers? Slightly.
Yes, it did go up, 3%, but it was what was provided in your budget.
That's what I figured.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Kyle,
Yes.
Lossing,
Yes.
Gibbs,
Yes.
Number 12, approved court request to increase public counter height discussion, possible action. This was in the clerk courts area, correct? Where there's a request to get the height changed on that. I know the price tag came in that 56,000 range, and adding the time frame to be increased. I don't think there's anything we want to approve based on the email I know we received from what's the gentleman's name with the
Immediate.
yes. But there was also an email from who was at the state of Iowa courts.
Scott Hand is his name.
And his recommendation was to continue forward to not slow the project, but look into a way to deal with this in the future. Is that correct?
Yes.
So with that said, I don't think it's anything we want to approve at this time, but it's something we need to have on our radar for a future item.
Okay, that's great by me. I just needed some sort of direction on it. I mean,
You have a bit of a plan. You have a.
I mean, I have what I think is a workable.
Yeah.
Like process for them to manage, their current situation. In my opinion, the request to have a higher counter to like interact with people isn't overly necessary because no one is manning that station. They're not there all day. It's a 3-minute conversation. So, the county attorneys have the same situation on their ends and, just coming up and having a conversation with someone and paper pass through. I don't see a lot of reason why that needs to be standing height counter. But, that's something that we can handle if we decide to pull the trigger on that in the future. Doing it now is a major issue because the courts is done. I think the glass is maybe going in today. The counter is basically done at this point. So,
And the cost would have been ours.
the kind of cost is 100%. The state of Iowa judicial has no funds to go towards the housing of their operations. That's not something they do other than their furniture and electronics. That's basically all they provide. We're mandated by code to provide space that the supervisors have.
This doesn't prevent them from doing what they need to do.
I
They
can't
have a
imagine.
calendar that's-
Yeah, I can't imagine that it prevents them from doing anything.
One of
They have some books that they need to give to abstractors, I believe, but
I don't see why that couldn't be past basically the entry door.
Also, they would have to leave one of the counters low for ADA. Again.
Yeah, and Jimmy's email on that said there was a problem with moving them up to standing height. I asked the question back, hey, is it, do we need both of them lower or just one of them? Can one of them be higher? And I haven't got that answer yet, but it's not something that needs to change.
So if no motion needs to be done or no action, let's go. Thank you very much for the information, Lucas. Number 13, approved purchase of courtroom benches, discussion possible action. Motion to approve purchase of courtroom benches for 4 courtrooms, courthouse.
I can just kind of talk on this as well. Originally, when we bid for courtroom benches, Iowa Prison Industries bid that, and they have essentially free labor. They pay their prisoners not even close to minimum wage and work in their shops. And we got a very reasonable cost for building 12 benches, I believe. The problem with that is after they had an incident with a jailer and inmate in the Animal side, they shut down a lot of their operations. So they were no longer able to fulfill our order for $14,550. So we were kind of left in limbo and sat on it for a while. And what are we going to do for courtroom seatings? And this is in the gallery area. So behind the bar where the public would watch a court proceeding. We looked at a few different options, kind of more of a modern airport style seating. And we talked about chair options. The problem with that is for security, someone being able to pick up a single chair and throw it. We don't want that. We want big, heavy stuff. So I reached out to a couple of companies and got bids for courtroom benches. There's 2 problems with it. The cheapest bid we got was $35,000. So we're somewhere around just under $10,000 more for the 12 benches. And the only time frame I got was 12 to 14 months. So we have kind of this limbo period of, okay, all right, do we pull the trigger on this, pay the extra money? I will say that the $14,550 is covered by our insurance. So we are looking at the delta above and beyond, unless we want to go back to EMC and say, please give me more money, which I'm not 100% we can do that. We may have signed something with them saying we'll settle for this furniture as a package as a whole. I'm not 100% happy.
I think we can still make adjustments.
Okay, so there's a possibility we can go back to EMC and say, give us more money. I don't know what that looks like, but so money is the first question. The second question is time frame, and what do we do in that time frame? We have some options. When we cleaned out our storage pods last week, we have a lot of chairs. We have a lot of the old wood chairs that were in the supervisor's meeting room, in some of the courtrooms, just kind of randomly around. We can make that 12 to 14 month time frame work if we do pull the trigger on benches, just with what we have. It won't be super pretty for that time frame, but it's something that we can solve that issue with. We could also take some of the stationary seating for the new board of supervisors meeting room that has nesting options and clips where you can tie chairs together, so you couldn't maybe pick up one chair. We can take some of those chairs and put we have some workarounds for that. So I guess the question is, do we want to order new benches for the courtrooms, or do we just make something else work?
Well, I think at some point we want the benches.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my thought is we're looking at figuring out an interim while we wait for the benches. But the benches seat how many?
There are 4 8-footer. I think there are 4 8-foot and 8 14 feet.
Depending on-
Yeah, because they have different areas. Now, Steve did ask a question. If there were some, like their churches closing down all over the United States and some of them give theirs away. You said you were gonna look into that. I don't know if you had any luck with something like that. There's nothing on governance.
Yeah, again, I just share with you what I shared before. There's benches out there for nothing that people are giving away up to $200 a bench.
Yeah.
And the pictures that I saw, they're beautiful pieces of furniture.
Yeah.
Those kind of things just don't get beat up.
Yeah, sure. There are some options out there. It's, what's the quality? What's the, how does it fit? What we have going on there, do colors fit, things like that. But, if there was, that unicorn out there, like this would work perfect and you don't have to drive 20 hours to get it. Okay, but
I'll do it. Neighboring states. I'll
Yeah.
go do it. I'll be my.
the problem is we're at the point where we need to pull the trigger on something, say, all right, we're gonna wait 3 months and see if something comes up. And then if we don't find anything, then we're now 12 to 14 months down the road.
So you're,
So it's a balancing act.
you're saying that there are options out there that would be permanent?
Permanent, oh,
solutions
yes.
That are in good
Yes.
condition?
Mhm.
Be suitable for the
Is it-
courtroom?
As close as Illinois was the last.
Is that what had been in there before were benches
Yes,
that were donated from a church? correct? Or
in the grant,
or
yes,
That's the grant.
In the grand.
yeah, in the grant courtroom. So this is all 4 courtrooms. Handle that. So that's the next thing that, something I push for is, we put a lot of time and money into the courthouse to have that consistency throughout. It's really what we're trying to drive here.
The old benches get burned in the way.
No, when we had our beautiful bid from IPI, we sold them on good deals.
Mhm.
You remember,
They all
for
match.
not a lot of money.
Do you remember what it was? that we got for?
It was not a lot of
Nothing.
money. For how long I stored them in my shop. Yeah,
That's a shame.
there's not a big market,
No.
to 12, 14 pieces of furniture, 12, 14 feet long. There's not a lot of places you can put stuff like that.
So it's likely to go back to EMC and say the purchase option that we originally quoted is not available.
Yep.
And we have this new rate now for what it takes to replace what was covered. They will approve that. It's probably likely.
I'd say it's decently likely. I mean, they can always say no, but
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had that situation come up before.
yeah, and this truly is a change and it's kind of something way out.
Are, well, to me, it makes sense to have insurance cover new, consistent, matching pieces of furniture for each courtroom, if it's possible. And look at an interim option, if we're talking a year out, look at an interim option. Maybe
Yeah,
some
With the
of
chairs.
others.
Yeah, or if we could
With-
find,
With
local
benches
pieces.
somewhere, I mean, if they're decent benches, giving them away, then
Those are hard
Years.
to move, though. If you're gonna do entrance, those are a lot of work.
yeah, they're hard to get in the building.
How do you get it? Yeah,
Well, new ones would come disassembled and they would assemble them inside. But
But a 14
a
foot.
full, we got them, we made a pallet and we had a tall forklift and shot them in the windows.
Through window. I
Yeah.
assume.
That's how we got the old ones out, but the longest one was 12 feet, so we had another 2 feet. And then we'd have to rent some sort of pole to get it up that high.
so your recommendation would be use existing chairs in the interim?
Yes. Yeah, I have enough chairs to handle that. And what I'd like to do is take the new chairs that we had for the board supervisors meeting room, put those in the courtroom, nest them together, take the more historic chairs that we have and put those in the board supervisors meeting room where they're not gonna have as much potential to be used as a weapon or destroyed.
Should,
Yeah.
on the quote that you got from the outfit that's gonna build, that would build the new. Is there a time in that 12 to 14 months where they haven't invested anything and you could cancel with no fee? I mean, if they haven't started on it
I
yet,
don't know.
you could, because then if you found something in like a 2 or 3 month window and they haven't started yet, you could just say cancel that.
I would have to go back and read terms on that. I imagine there's something there, but
Because if it's just backlog,
Yes.
that they're, they may not do anything with our projects.
yeah, my guess is that they're just backlogged that much and they're not gonna make, one here and one there and store it. They're gonna make all the time and try and get them.
I like the sound of that. And I'll be the one to do some research.
If you can find some nice looking benches, I'm all for it. But yeah, I will, if we do decide to order some, I will definitely ask that question on, hey, if we find something, 3-6 months down the road, what's the cancellation look like?
And then do we ask a question to EMC now or do we not?
I think we ask it right away.
Say do it now, see.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah, there's, Dan and I have, some proposals that we need to get out.
Yeah.
Throw that into it. So I have essentially 3 different bids. I did call references on both of these. I called 3 different references, one for one company, 2 for the other, and I got little old ladies who sat in those pews at church and they said, these are just. And I I'm like, are they sturdy? Oh, yeah. Great.
Pay about 80.
So.
So.
Yeah.
You could buy a car from too.
It's probably, yeah, it probably has 3,000 miles on it. It's 20 years old. And they just drive to church.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you might be people I want to know about.
So I have a proposal from New Holland Furniture, who is out of Pennsylvania, I believe. There are 2 different options on wood grain. So it's spec for a rift-sawn grain, which is a more expensive cut because you don't get as many boards out of the tree. Those are higher, and both of those quotes are $40,200 ish. And then there is a plain saw cut, and that is our cheapest quote at just under $36,000. So we can do a different cut of wood and save about $5,000. And I have, I guess, those cut options. Plain saw and rift saw are the middle and the left side there. I'm a fan of plain saw. Rift saw is cool, but it's, I don't know, you get some like swirls of grain essentially.
Get the plain solids.
Yeah, it's still a very nice cut.
Sufficient to me.
Okay, so that quote for our 8 benches is $35,946.97
From New Holland.
from New Holland Church Furniture, Prospect Street, New Holland, Pennsylvania.
That's for all the benches we need.
Is that shipping too?
Yeah, that's shipping and install. I don't need you to drive to Pennsylvania.
Think anyone was 12 inches, I really need 8. Is it longer?
Oh, benches, you said before.
Yeah, I said 12, but it's actually
Only,
8.
okay.
So next steps are you're going to
I think I just
do some,
sign this approval and say, get to work. Actually, the New Holland Church Furniture, they won't give me a lead time until we order. So it's potentially less than the other. Or more.
and you'll pursue it with EMC as well.
Well, yeah, we'll reach out to them.
And then in the meantime, Steve will be looking for other options. But
Traveling,
I'll be traveling.
tri-state area.
Just drive around, look for shattered churches and say, you got any?
Methodists are. Might be able to find some Methodists.
Some options, right?
Right, we have a motion for this.
I'll make the motion that we proceed with the next steps in the purchase of the courtroom benches as discussed. Do you want the
Do we need the
New Holland, $35,946.97 for 8 benches.
I'll second.
Right, we have that motion to second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Kyle,
Yes.
Swanbeck,
Yes.
Vince,
Yes.
Thanks for your work on that one, Vince. Thank you. Public forum. Set aside for public to make comments on topics of county business other than those listed on this agenda, and whether no action will be taken on any of these topics brought up in public.
okay, we have a little bit of a delay on our construction. It's a 1-week delay. 2 parts. One part is, we could not get the state elevator inspector here until May 18th. If we open to the public on the 16th, we would have to provide accommodations where we would come down to any public that called a phone number from somewhere and have a computer set up somewhere that we could service them. We'd also have to figure out how many staff would be getting, we might have to put them in a different location because of them not being able to go stairs. So, James, we've also got an issue with the computers that we think we've got solved. He's tried the fix that he got from Dell on a few, seems to be holding and sticking and working. However, there's more computer work than plugging everything in and hooking it up. It's not just okay, now it works. And it does take a long time to still take all the stuff out of boxes and stuff, but this adds some extra work. And I really think James is probably the only one that way of doing that on all of these machines.
James, you wanted to describe what the issue is, was it?
Sure. We were hoping to have a couple of weeks to set up and test everything, and timing just didn't work out. We also had to do some retrofitting on the fiber optic to bring a different company in, so that kind of slowed down deployment. We deployed the units and they required a different operating system to make it work the way that the staff needed for the ones that we had on it. If you would have walked away for too long, the screen would have locked. And the process to get it back into working was very cumbersome. So we talked to Dell and they said you'd probably be happier with this other system. You can either ship back what you have or just reload the system. We said reload them. We weren't sure what the time frame was. This was April-ish. The fix they gave us worked great on the 5 test machines that we rolled it out on from December when we got them. The newer generation ones that were in the boxes just weren't compatible with that fix. Took a couple of days to get the right engineers on the phone to say yes. Dell apparently changed the methodology of the upgrade process from the units that get tested on to production units that's rolling out. And they have not put that process on the web yet, so we weren't able to find the fix. Yesterday afternoon, They got us staged up and we've been testing. So far, it's been going very well. Like Dan said, it's just 10, 15 minutes per machine at least, and it takes a little bit of babysitting, but so far, so
And unfortunately, it's just James doing that too, so to make sure he's happy with the outcome, it's responding correctly.
Dan and Lucas's crew have been doing most of the deployments of the actual machines. It's taken 20, 30 minutes kind of per machine.
Yeah.
I'd say we're almost halfway done deploying the building. Again, some areas we're waiting for construction to clear out, so to go in. We told them we need no dust. They need to be walk away ready. Just haven't been ready. It's serious. But I think they released a large portion of them yesterday,
My walk around this morning, I think it's good to go.
which is going to open it up. So we won't be able to have it done by tonight or this week, but we're making huge progress now that road.
So the recommendation we have is to delay everything just 1 week. So we had planned on closing this Thursday, Friday. So that's the May 11th, 12th, and 15th, opening the 16th. We're wanting to move 18, 19, and 22, and there's going to be some adjustments with some of the departments. We've got somebody in the bank that will be on vacation, so we'll make some adjustment to try to do some things ahead of that. Because there is a department head, that wants to be here for at least a portion of the things, and we'll work with them to do that. But really getting most of the bank stuff out. The attorney's office is a little different because of the flexibility, because they're in a different spot, but moving everything just 1 week where we closed to the public 18, 19, and Monday the 22nd. We would open to the public on 23rd in the courthouse. And then our next board meeting on the 24th and ribbon cutting board will all, that still flows into those dates really nicely. The having our wonderful big project and being able to reveal not having an elevator doesn't feel right, and we have different staff that it will be an issue for. So I think we'd have to pay them to work from home.
So the elevator's been working all this time. It's not that it doesn't work.
Yes,
It's just, this is just a,
It has a construction use permit right
Yeah.
now, so it's not permitted for public use.
Is there any way to still move our office in tomorrow?
We can work on that, maybe not all, but we can talk to you about that offline, about doing some things. We're concerned about the 3 in the entry area and all the construction going on there. Not as concerned about the attorneys.
Yeah, should have that wrapped today.
Yeah, they're supposed to have it done by end of day, but
Okay.
if we're delayed a day or so for those 3, to me, it would be a nicer move anyway, if we could get some and it's not all in one day. To me, that just seems like a better move, and if there's some computer issues.
And
But
if
James
their-
and his
if
team-
their computers are down for a day, I mean, I have plenty to do for until that gap is finished.
Well, and we have some other options for your 3 admins for another location for them to be for a day.
Or if they're good at construction.
I would have 4 because Kyle.
Or Kyle too.
Well, Kyle's space is ready.
Yeah. And his computer is good.
Not yet, prioritize it. My only concern is we'll have to get with the door folks and working out some programming issues with the ability to get through the doors. And right now, 2 of your doors need to be finished up.
I told Kyle to prioritize that this morning.
And if we can clear that, I think we can make it.
And I've talked to Nan about my office by Iowa code. Needs to be done by May 31st with our board review. We can ask for an extension from the Iowa Department of Revenue. Doesn't mean that we're gonna get that guaranteed or not. We're gonna work with my board review and getting that possibly figured out on Monday on the 15th. When we have our next set of meetings. But we probably need about 4 or 5 days still. We'd like to try and be done by the 31st. So because of everything getting pushed back now, we didn't schedule anything for this week except for Monday and Tuesday. So I'm still going to have to schedule meetings probably the 17th, 18th, 19th if my board can do that.
We'll work on that schedule. The days we're moving out will not be good days for you.
And that's why I'm bringing this up now.
Not be good days to move.
Is like this location a possibility if necessary?
I can ask my board to review that. I know they want to try and stay inside.
City limits, it's just a thought.
You mean this for
Yeah,
I would have to check too,
Yeah.
so make sure if you.
Because
that's an option.
I mean, sometimes, yeah, sometimes it's.
one works at Burbridge, one's a realtor, and one's an insurance agent.
Yep.
Marshalltown, so.
How many group are you talking, curiosity?
So it's the 3 board members, me and Tara, and then typically it's 1 to 2 taxpayers, depending if it's husband, wife, or.
So now we're not talking an mass meeting.
No, it did, no. So it's just, I probably could have 18 to 20 in a day coming in and out, and then I need time to set up everything. We need time to make all the decisions, act on those. And we've been doing about 15 to 18 a day, but they want to make sure we're not going to be jumping over all the place because they don't want to cause inconsistencies with the taxpayers that are coming in person or the ones that apply for formal appeals.
Yeah, we'll work with them. I think we've got some options for them in downtown. And you know, another, maybe the library.
Or like with Jordan's conference room.
Yeah.
No elevator.
True. Yes, thank you. Thanks for.
So many
Yeah.
moving parts.
It would have to be the first.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if the first floor of the board of supervisors.
Yeah.
I don't see why that would
Alright,
be.
My conference room.
Your conference room.
Takes 10 people easy and it's got a door to the curb.
Yeah, so there's another really good option and they've got all the accounting stuff moved out of there. So
And you have the
we'll work
TV
with this.
set up like what we do at the board.
We can make it work.
I ordered one and never showed up.
Okay. Because I need that and I'll use our MiFi and everything for that.
If that were to be set up in the board meeting room, I would say that would be sufficient. Does that work?
That's.
Board of Supervisors.
They,
First floor.
I kind of told them the layout of the board room. They don't like the idea of having them at your seats kind of, they feel.
We
like
can put some tables. Yeah.
It just feels like it's more formal and they want it to be more informal like it has been. They don't want to intimidate or anything.
I think that's just a setup.
So
Yeah.
they would prefer a conference room. Just with tables, kind of like.
Well, we're Paul's location might be a really good option. So we'll work something out for you.
But my next meeting is the 15th. I was gonna try and talk to him today or tomorrow, but I don't know how fast we can get something made up.
We can get it figured out today,
Okay.
Is there a drop dead date you have to be on the?
May 31st.
We'll pay another month's rent.
No.
So, and we want to get.
We did an introduction on the conference.
Yeah.
So they did 3 months.
Yep.
Was there anything else on timeline?
I don't think so. I will go ahead and get a communication out, so we'll update it and just wait a week to.
Yeah.
And staff, so that everybody knows that. I think most of the folks forwarded it on, and then department heads can talk to their own people with alternate schedules.
Perfect, thank you. Harold.
Yeah, I had a question for the sheriff's department. This speed trailer. How do you go about making a request to have one set up in a certain area?
You just contact our office. We always have a, we have locations kind of pre-planned, but we can always add in, as needed.
Okay, because I did call out here and I don't know what number I called and said, well, they didn't know anything about it. The other people were gone at 4 o'clock. And I thought it'd be nice if you had a number that when you put that in the paper, whoever put it in the paper that to know, but.
Yeah, just our general office number. They just, so those generally get to my voicemail, but I've not heard anything.
Okay, is there a waiting list? I mean, here's my, I've got a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit past my house. And I'll dare to say that nobody's driving 35, they're driving a whole lot faster. Is there a way that you can request to have one set up to see it doesn't ticket anybody,
No,
correct? Is that right?
no, but so we have different options too for data collection versus just visual display. We have some options too to talk about with that. As far as actually we can set up a data collector to find out what those speeds are without showing that. So we can actually get a study that says this time of day, this vehicle went by at this speed. It doesn't tell us anything about the vehicle, that gives us times of days, speeds, days of the week,
Okay.
determine if there's a problem and then when that problem is. So that'd probably be a better option for what you're talking.
Yeah, because it's not really a good location to set that. I saw it up at the school, being out the school. That was very convenient there.
And they're very effective and as a traffic calming device, what they are.
Okay.
Yeah, if you catch me here before you leave, we can figure something out.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Other public forum.
Just update on the RFP now instead of RFP, the request for bids. It's been a nightmare, to say the least. So I edited again the way the attorney's office and the state would like to see it and just sent it back to both. Once it comes back with an okay, and I'm hoping it does, we'll just, the board would have to set the dates for the meetings, which are blank, and then I need to work with Paul on the little bit that's engineering, and I think I'll just have to give you the information that I actually got from the first estimate, quote, whatever you want to call it, that has all the details. Probably just sign off on that because it has all speech notes. So I think that's what we're down to. I hope. Right, Ann?
I hope
Oh,
so.
my word.
It's been, yes, for the
We're
siren.
working on 2 years here, so that's the siren bid that I'm talking about, so.
Thank you. Anything else for public forum? All right, a couple announcements. Let's see, next May 16th, Board of Supervisors, 3 members will be at Rotary. And then May 24th, prior to the regular session board meeting, we'll be having ribbon cutting. So it's exciting times. We're getting very close. And thank you for all their heavy lifting and working and putting in extra hours to make things happen for us and get the building back to the people. So we're looking forward to that. Any other further comments? We're in adjournment. Next regular session is that May 24th meeting at 9 a.m. at the courthouse, first floor meeting room, 1 East Main Street, if you forgot. All business be acted upon this section. Should be submitted to the County Auditor Recorder's Office or the Board of Supervisors Office by Wednesday, May 17th at noon. There being no further business to come before the board, the meeting is adjourned at 10:28 a.m. Thank you very much.